What's up, y'all? We're back today. Rainy day. It's my day off. About to go run some errands and take care of some business and try and have a productive day off. Nice and rainy, gray day, but at least it's not hot. It has been a very hot summer. But at times like this, I really learn to enjoy my days off. I work outside. I work a blue collar job, a manual labor job. Not as strenuous as some, but I still do work outside. And I have to be out in the elements at all times, Rain, snow, ice, heat. So you learn to appreciate these like moderately temperature days. The reason I'm appreciating them more than usual is we've been getting back to a lot of mandated overtime in my office. It is what it is. I mean, obviously, the overtime makes your checks bigger, and that is always nice. You always like to make more money. But it just, the time that it takes from you is draining, especially when you're doing it consistently multiple days a week. You're working long 10, 12-hour days, especially out in the elements. And especially when it's like unplanned, when they just come up to you and like, oh yeah, I gotta give you an hour and a half of overtime today. And it's like, what if I had things going on? What if I had other plans, etc. Um, and it does become frustrating after a while. And at my job, obviously they offer overtime, and there's always overtime available. But they have like the non-overtime list, and then they have the overtime desired list. And so you can sign up, and then like if you sign up, you're the first to get it if it's available, which it's always available, at least a little bit, right? And the other day, I left. I put in a little over an 11-hour day. I left at like 7:15 in the evening or whatever. I was walking out with one of my coworkers who is on the overtime list, and she's been on it for as long as she's been there, pretty much. And normally they work the overtime people 12 hours until they max out, which we max out at 60 hours a week. They never work anybody really more than it's very rare. Because then we get into like extreme penalty pay, and they don't like to do that. 2.5 times pay. They don't like to pay people that much, right? So that's why they also mandate other people is if the overtime list is maxed out, then they gotta move down the list, right? So it's the nature of the job. I get it. Like I said, a couple hours here and there just makes my checks a little bit bigger. But I do have, it makes me think about those coworkers of mine that are on the overtime list all the time. Like I'm talking all year long, every year, always on that overtime list. Maybe they take a couple weeks off here and there throughout the year, but for the most part, always grinding, always on that overtime list. And it makes me wonder like what the purpose of that is for them. I mean, is it because do you need the money? Has your lifestyle inflated to the point that you need the overtime to sustain yourself? Which, look, I get the cost of living is high and everything, and the cost of everything has gone up, but is it really worth it to work your entire life away, to work your youth away? Like some of these people, they have families, they're married, they have kids, and it's like you're missing all of that time just for a little bit extra paycheck. And I asked my coworker the other night as we were leaving, I was like, is it actually worth it? Like working all this overtime? Because she probably puts in close to 60 hours a week every week. Like I'm sure she gets close to maxing out every week. And she was like, yeah, it's worth it. It's an extra $600 to $700 on my paycheck. Which, don't get me wrong, that's an extra 12 to 1400 a month. But again, if you have to work all of that time for that just to be able to sustain yourself, it's like how much time do you actually have to live and to, I don't know, just experience your life, live your life, you know? Like, why is it that I'm able to be comfortable with minimal overtime while other people feel like they have to work all the time? You know, and I get it, I understand, like, if you enjoy working and stuff, like, all the power to you. But most people I know, and most of my coworkers would prefer to have more free time. Which it makes me wonder, and it raises the question, like, what do you spend all that money on? Why do you need your lifestyle to be that inflated? Why do you need a brand new car just to drive to this office, to work all day, to pay for said car, to just drive home? You know, just buying stuff, buying things, etc. Like, why do you need all of this? Like, you don't even have the time to enjoy it. And the next question is, do you think it's making you rich? Like, do you think over time it's going to make you rich? And there are people that think that, you know, and they flex like, oh, like, I had this much on my check today. It's like, cool, dude, like, my check was not that much smaller than yours, and I had much more time to chill, do what I needed to do, work on hobbies, work on extra things, and not just punch a clock and go back, you know, next day. It's like overtime, you know, blue collar jobs. I've noticed online in general, there's been a big rise in blue collar jobs. There's been a lot more interest put on them, especially for young people. Like, so realizing that the traditional, like, corporate white collar job is not everything it was made out to be as we were growing up. And I have worked a lot of blue collar jobs. I've worked a lot of manual labor jobs ever since I was a teenager, so I'm used to it. But one thing that a lot of people don't understand is you can make really good money in blue collar work, but it's hard work. And a lot of times you have to work long hours to make said money, right? Otherwise, if you just work your basic 40 hours a week, a lot of those jobs, you're just making average wages. And so a lot of blue collar jobs, people are working, you know, 50, 60, 80, 100-hour weeks sometimes. And yeah, sure, they're pulling in very large amounts of money by the end of the year, well into the six figures, but the trade-offs for that are also significant. And, you know, I've calculated, I've looked at my checks, I've worked, you know, long weeks, and when I actually break it down and do the math for the take-home pay compared to the hours, I'm really only, over the course of that pay period, maybe making an extra $3 to $4 per hour net, right? So yeah, sure, they may be paying me time and a half, and even occasionally double time. But in reality, the net take-home pay at the end of the pay period is not even time and a half for my hours worked. It's like, overtime does not make you rich. And people that think that they're going to out hustle inflation, you're not. You're not going to out hustle inflation. You're not going to outwork inflation. You have to put your money, you have to put your time, essentially, into appreciating assets that are going to grow as time grows. As time goes on, they're going to grow. As inflation goes and grows, your assets are going to grow, and at least hopefully keep up with inflation, right? And this whole hustle culture mentality and work harder and put in more hours and all of that, look, yes, that does have a place. But so many people hustle, and make all this money. They have a very strong income, but they spend it all. It's all gone before they can do anything with it. They stay on that hamster wheel every 2 weeks of constantly having to punch a clock, constantly having to be at work, and constantly having to put in all those hours because they never pay themselves first. Overtime does not make you rich. Only assets make you rich. Obviously, use overtime, and I work it, and it is a tool. And I do appreciate having that option. Don't get me wrong, I do. But by no means do I think that that's a long-term solution for anyone. You know, when you're 25, 30 years old, yeah, sure, 60-hour weeks, you can do them. I mean, you have the strength, you have the endurance, you can work like that. But when you're 40, 50, 60 years old and you're still working at that point, I hope you not plan to be working at that point. That's why I'm working hard now. And that's why I'm trying to put my money in places so that I don't have to be working for that paycheck. So my assets can be paid and replace anything that I have to trade my time for now. So definitely, I think there is a place for, the hard work hustle mentality. There are a lot of people that, yes, do not want to work hard. They want everything. But also at the same time, you have to have a balance between working hard and working smart. And most people do one or the other, but it's hard to do both. And it's hard to do both over a long-term horizon, long enough to actually see the benefits pay off. Yes, you're working hard and you're working a lot of hours, etc. But every 2 weeks, you're back in the same position as you were right before that. You're constantly having to continue to work harder and harder to maintain the same level. If you're working smarter, but you're not working hard and you're trying to find an easy way out, you're trying to find the fast way out, etc., then you're not going to have the ability to have your efforts compound on themselves faster. If you can have the perfect portfolio allocation, you can have the perfect investment ideas and be one of the best investors. But if you're not working hard enough to have enough income, to have enough money to funnel into these assets, then you're not going to be able to compound your net worth and compound your growth and investments fast enough for it to make a significant difference in your life. And that's what I'm trying to say is you have to have a blend of working smarter and working harder and putting it all together and allowing your efforts to compound over time. It takes both, not one or the other. There is no method between the two is better. The best is using them together. But that being said, definitely get out there, work hard, play hard, have fun, and enjoy your time off too. You deserve it. Everybody deserves it. Especially when you definitely put in that work, but also take time to rest and recover and actually enjoy what it is that you're working towards. And I've had to do that lately, and I've been doing that where I've had to take some of my focus off. I've usually put so much focus on the future and miss out on the present. And I've started to force myself to kind of change that and live in the moment and enjoy the moment and live the present because you're never guaranteed tomorrow. Yes, plan for tomorrow, work hard for tomorrow, but also live in the moment, live in today and enjoy today too. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to do myself, and that's what I encourage all of you to do. And it definitely makes your hard work seem even more worth it once you actually get to sit back and enjoy it. But that being said, I'm about to go knock out these errands. I'm going to enjoy my day off. I encourage you guys to do the same thing. Until next time, I hope you all have a great one. Peace.